Hello everyone, this is PBS. I'm down here in the corner in this little talking head thing, and I wanted to do a sort of a supplemental video to the basics of logic. If you're around me, you'll hear me talk about logic a lot, whether you're in my English classes or other classes. And it's important because it's the basis of a lot of the way we talk, a lot of the way we communicate. It certainly can get to a higher level. It's almost mathematical and algebraic in so many ways. But just the basics of how we think and talk is the thing I want to talk about here this morning. Anyway, I define logic as proper thinking. That brings an ethical element into it because you can misuse it in unethical ways too. But I define it as proper thinking, and there are basic types of logic, and we're only going to be dealing with the first two here, just kind of an introduction to the first two. I want to put this up here to note that there are these other ones, and to note that for those of you who are being introduced to logic for the first time, I understand you're at the beginning stages. Don't assume that you know everything there is to know about it. There's a lot more, but it's to help you just form some basic understanding and to begin writing well, speaking well, thinking well. These need to be understood so we can move on to these. It's a little bit like you have to know multiplication and addition before you can move on to algebra. The logic in itself, once you get to this formal level, is like algebra. And there's a danger here of people getting a hold of this, getting enough knowledge to be dangerous, who said, and I always like using the illustration of giving an 8-year-old boy a hatchet for Christmas. Not a good idea. Everything becomes a log at that point. And we don't want to go around, as they say, chopping logic and beating up people with what we think are, our superior understanding. So we got to be careful of that. It's a tool to help us communicate. It's a tool to help us be clear. And it's a tool to help us see where there might be error in somebody's thinking. And we need to be humble about it. Okay? So the first principle, and this is the first principle of English, of any language, not just English, but any language, is a claim. The fundamental concept is a claim. A subject is a predicate. This is the basis for any sentence. A subject is a predicate. You have a subject, one who does the action, or is the one being described, and a predicate. The action, the object, or a descriptor of the subject. In logic, it's mainly a descriptor, and you have two kinds, of course, predicate nominative and a predicate adjective. Okay, and I'll get to that. So a subject is a predicate. I just said that. Sorry, I got to remember I got a video. A subject is the doer of the verb, or the one who's being something's being attributed to the subject. An attribute or an action of the subject is the predicate. So the dog is a Labrador. That is an attribute. It's a noun here, but it's an attribute. When we have an action, we get funny sentences like the Labrador, or the dog is a Labrador Retriever, so the dog is a retrieving thing, or retrieving type of dog, and that keeps us in the subject predicate form for logic's sake. But basically, it just gets down to this kind of thing. So we have four types of sentences in any language. There's another one in here. Maybe I said four back there. It should be five, shouldn't it? See, there are three kinds of people in the world: those who can count and those who can't. And I'm one of those who can't. So an interrogative is a question, an exclamation, wow, an imperative is a command, get off my yard. Nonsense, I'm going to come back to that in a minute, words in a line that look like a sentence but they're not, or an indicative, a statement, and that's what we're calling a claim. Now, we can turn a lot of things into claims. There's claims implied, but really these last two are what we're looking at. Nonsense are just words that sound like something, and I'm reminded of a sentence Steve Martin, the comedian, once said, "May our mama dog face the banana patch." He made it sound like a sentence. He made it sound like a question, but it really was just nonsense, and that was his point, and he was having fun with that. So we're after an indicative statement that makes a claim. S is P. Something is something else. Okay? That's the basic, fundamental bottom line. A claim is a predication. That's our big word for it. Right? Well, you say, no, it isn't. Yes, it is. No, it isn't. Yes, it is. We can go back and forth, and we go, well, no, don't start that again, right? We don't want to go there. But what this points to is that a predication, to predicate, is to say something about something. In Greek, it's the word to categorizo, to categorize, to put something in a category. And by putting it in a category, you're giving it some attributes or saying it's part of a class, a genus, a species, something like that. Interesting, the same word is used for to accuse as to predicate, or to prosecute a crime as to predicate. And I teach in prisons, and I found that the prisoners thought that was fascinating. They understood what that meant. They have all been categorized. They have literally been categorized because they have been put in a prison. And when we get into some things later, I'll bring that up again as to how that's sort of an analogy for predication, for making a claim. You're putting something into a category. You're putting something into a set, into a genus or species, or giving it an attribute. Okay? So, what we have to do then is we have to think. We use our minds to think about these things, to categorize. Now, here's what I mean. Here's a claim. Fluffy is a Labrador. Okay, well, we know Fluffy's a cat, so Fluffy is not part of the set of Labradors over here. So Fluffy is actually not a Labrador. That's a claim. Fluffy's not a Labrador. But if I said Fluffy is a Labrador, that's an untrue claim. Fluffy's not a Labrador. Yeah, Fluffy's outside this group of Labradors. Then that's a true claim that Fluffy's not a Labrador. But if I were to say Captain, what's his name here, is a pirate, well, then we would put him in the circle of all pirates. And when we say he is a pirate, we're saying this thing, this guy, is one of these. Okay, this guy is one of these. That looks more like a monkey than a parrot up there, I just noticed. Yeah, it is a monkey. Okay, anyway, it's beside the point. But we're placing him in the category of pirates. Now, technically, this could just be a guy going to a party looking like a pirate, but he's still a pirate in the sense of he's trying to be part of this class over here. All right? So there are two types of predicates. And I have fun with this. The cat is Fluffy. That's a predicate adjective. So you're saying something about the cat. And my cat is Fluffy. That's a predicate nominative. The name of the cat. Nominative means name or noun. Okay, so anything that's a noun, like a Labrador, is a predicate nominative. Anything that's a adjective, like black or hairy or friendly, those are all predicate adjectives. Fluffy, I don't know. Fluffy's a cat. She may not be friendly. I don't know. But if I said Fluffy is Fluffy, that's true if you understood both of these words in their proper context. But what if my cat's a Siamese? Is Fluffy a good name for that cat? And is Fluffy really Fluffy? I don't know. We'd have to look at Fluffy to see if Fluffy was Fluffy. So, what we're trying to point out here, though, is that claims have a value, and this is a claim. A claim has bivalence. A claim is a bivalent thing. Bivalence means it has either the value of being true or false. Okay? This is, for logic's sake, it has the value of being true or false. Any claim we make is either true or false. So most of us would say that a Siamese is not Fluffy. So the claim that my cat is Fluffy is not true, although that can get a little fuzzy. Ha ha ha. Because some of you may say a Siamese may be Fluffy. It depends. That's where we get into what's called fuzzy logic. And that's another category of fuzzy logic. It's kind of like modal logic. And we're not getting into that. I just wanted to have fun with a dad joke there. But there is a kind of logic called fuzzy logic that gets into those things like, all right, you and I would say something's hot, but is it really hot? And what do I mean by hot? I mean, you may say the room's hot, and I may say, no, it's comfortable. See, now we're getting into some variations of things that get into it. And that fuzzy logic deals with those things. But that's after you learn the basics, okay? So bivalence, when we say a claim is true, there are different ways we can verify or say the claim is true. Claims are true or false by first verification. It's raining outside. Well, go look out the door. Is it or is it not? No, it's not. Therefore, the claim is not true. Analysis, a triangle has three sides. By definition, by understanding of it, it's true by definition. Analysis. True by commonplace. The sky is blue. Well, that could be verification, and it could have some analysis to it, but we all just accept it, right? It's understood. Nobody needs to question it, really. So we just do it. And commonplace means just an idea that everybody has, everybody understands. Or there's self-report. I do not feel well. Okay, that's a different claim than I am sick. I do not feel well reports how you are feeling. I am sick is a medical condition that the doctor verifies. You've got something wrong with you. Those are two different kinds of claims, although we use them because we're not very clear sometimes in the same way. But if you say you don't feel well, there's no reason for me to doubt it unless you're like me, the day I didn't want to go to school and told my mom I didn't feel well back in 8th grade, and then remembered that was the day we had a field trip, and I was mad because I had lied and didn't get to go on the field trip. But anyway, the difference between these two things is a doctor verifies this, and that makes it true or false, where here you're just reporting how you feel, and we don't take self-reports as false. We usually say, well, that's what you feel. There's no reason to doubt that. Okay? So claims also have context. You know, if we say, dogs ate my homework, and this is how we would translate it, dogs are homework eaters. That's S is P. Dogs are homework eaters. Okay? That's how we put it in logical form. But how many dogs? All the dogs? Some dogs? Your dog? So we could put it, some dogs ate my homework. And if you just have that, dogs ate my homework, we're saying some dogs ate my homework because we're not saying every dog in the world came and ate your homework. Here, when we say dogs are canines, well, every dog in the world is a canine, so that's all dogs are canines. And then if you're talking about your dog, he ate your homework, well, then it's all your dog, so it's all my dog. So if it's a singular thing and you're talking about it, it's all that. And then no cats ate my homework because cats aren't dogs, right? Okay, these are the relationships and context of our claims, and we're going to come back to this a little more too. So claims have four main categories in logic, and the first is a universal affirmative claim. All S is P. The second is a affirmative particular claim. Some S is P. Then there's a universal negative claim. No S is P. And then there's a particular negative claim. Some S is not P. Okay, this is a basic way we can break down any claim. Most of them are talking about all. We're saying this is that. We're talking about all. But sometimes we have to be more specific and say some is and some is not, or some are not. I should say some are not. But we're talking about the S is P here. I know some should be are. I get that. But we're talking about, in some places we'll fix that. But logic and grammar here are kind of two different things. Shouldn't be, but they are. Okay, so here's how it looks in a kind of a graph form. And I learned this from Gordon Clark in his book on logic, but I think it's helpful. These are the different ways that S and P can be related. Sorry if it's not perfect. I'm not good at graphics on here. But these two circles represent all S is P. And we give that the letter A. It's an A statement, okay? A and I are affirmative statements, and it comes from the word affirm, affirmo in Latin, A and I. That's why they're there. Over here we have negative statements, and that comes from the Latin nego, E and O. Nego, affirmo, A-I-E-O. There's all kinds of silly stuff like that in logic, okay? But anyway, this first one represents claims that all S is P. Now, this is important because people confuse these two, and this not making this distinction sometimes could result in bad logic, could result in a fallacy. But if you see here, everything that's an S is a P, and everything that's a P is also an S. We're just claiming all S's are P's. And that's what this represents. Here's the same thing, though. All S's, and here are S's, they're all also P's, but not all P's are S's. Here all P's are S's, and S's are P's, but here not all P's are S's. I'll be an example of this one. All dogs are brown. Okay. Well, okay. Is that true? It's not true. So I guess that's a bad example. What am I trying to think here? All kinds of P things. Well, the point is, okay, that's not it, because that's a little different. All dogs are hairy, so S would be dogs, and P would be Harry.